So this morning we got the sad news that the former finance minister and also public enterprise minister Pravin Gordhan has passed away. Now, hailed as serving his role very well and setting a very high benchmark. I think I was watching I read an article, I think from the Mail and Guardian. Is it from the Mail and Guardian? I kind of was speaking along those lines. He set a very high benchmark in his time and service to thinking. Now, I wanted to also bring into this particular subject as well another story that's kind of like trending around the same time, which is the story of the Romas pizza video and the company responding to it with a letter. And so, which kind of like, it goes with the message that I'm talking about in this video, And so, in public enterprise, they're saying he served and set a high benchmark, whether it be in finance or what thing. That's what they're saying, right? And so I'm going to take that from his service, as you may put it, from Pravin Gordhan's service, to come back here and talk to the average person and relate that message to you who's now watching. And I think it kind of brings up a very interesting subject for us to think about, or to think about what exactly is my service back to people. It's not the things that people kind of like hail me for. No, it's kind of the things that I prize over people. Like I would do this for another person. It's not something that I'm trying to get from someone. It's what I would do for another person. And that becomes a very interesting conversation in the line of what I'm talking about. And I'm taking that from that whole thing, the idea of them saying in the Mail and Guardian, Pravin Gordhan served and set a very high benchmark within, whether it be public enterprise or as a finance minister. And so I would ask that question also for Romas, but also I'm going to take that message from there and I'm going to phase it back unto you. It's the Rex Reality Show. We do daily Christian commentary videos. If it's your first time over here, to be sure, check out the other videos that are down in the pinned comments and I'm going to check you out over there. All right. And so this message, or this kind of came to my mind right after kind of like reading that article, and the main theme around it was just service. What is service? Service is mostly, you can see it, or you can see service mostly when people become demanding. And then that's when you kind of like realize it, like, okay, when a person starts demanding, why am I not served like this and this? And then you have videos and stuff like that kind of like come out, people complaining how they were not served the way they liked and stuff like that. It kind of reminds you of service. But then at the same time, what also ends up happening is that you kind of like remember service is the one thing we have. Our entire life reflects service. Sometimes we get caught up pursuing something else, and that's the thing that I want to warn against. Our time gets taken up pursuing something else that we lose service. You see, the Romas manager or local manager over there probably started serving something else. You started serving something else. You can determine what that is. Whether it be the target profit for the day, and you forgot that you wouldn't eat from that box. Would see you on a different line. You wouldn't eat at that box. But because that happens because why? Because you start serving something else. And this also kind of brings back the very same subject. So people can't stop complaining about wanting a better job and getting a better job. And if they get a better job, they'll be a better person. And they don't realize you've still not learned service. You still have not learned service. So what do you think you're going to do at a better job? You've missed service. Some people, they can't wait to serve at higher positions. They can't wait to be appointed at higher positions and what. But at a till, you were such a terrible person. What higher position are you looking for when at a till you're such an horrible individual? How are you now doing customer service when you could not even say plastic? You know, if you've been at a spa line, you know what I'm talking about. You know, that plastic is no longer 50 cents. They really out to sell it. It's like 150 now. I don't even know. You know, you couldn't even bring that line up without bringing arrogance or attitude with it, and you think you'll do better at a bigger position. Why do you think that? Because you've forgotten service. People that chase position forgot service. There are people that have vowed, you know, if I was just a minister, or if I was this and that, and if I did this and I was put in this position and I was doing that, and then I'll just, they cannot wait to tell us how much they can do at higher positions, and they have still not served. They still have not figured out what service looks like at their position. What creates corruption? What creates corruption is people that forget service. It's people that forgot service. They could not serve, and so therefore they would rather destroy in benefiting themselves in one way or another, or purchasing a car. They thought they can just cheat their way through this and get their 500,000 and go off and buy a car, and that very same car you can be in an accident in less than a week of having that car, and it's now useless, and you've just ruined an entire system. You've corrupted a long-term thing to get short-term gratification. You've not learned service. You've not learned setting a higher benchmark. The manager sat there thinking, because this year, what you saw in that whole Romans pizza thing, I can tell you right now, it is the local branch manager, the local Roman branch manager that would authorize something like that. Because they would not be thinking, you know. Then someone would say, no, but why was the other person recording? Why shouldn't they record? You got wrong questions as well. You ask wrong questions. You see, we learn sometimes when we move away from seeking positions or seeking some better, we'll realize that there is service in the place where we are standing. Right now, at a place where I am, what service do I provide? And sometimes service is not even running around trying to do that, trying to do that. At the current space at which you occupy, you're a mother. How far? I saw a story that's quite sickening. This morning, a young lady wanted to go partying. She left her child. I dare not even say where. Not learned service. You've not learned to serve others. And you deserve better. How? Where? She chased something that was only going to last 8 hours of a sleeping thingy. Now, of course, they say she took like 2 days or something like that, according to what I read. And she decided to go partying, not learned how to serve. And when she had a child, she'd not thought about what kind of fun do I want to have? And what kind of fun and what does it bring? What are the rewards that come with it? She did not think about that. Compromised herself. And now, a child's life. Because in service, we learn responsibility, right? When we learn to serve, we learn responsibility. And this brings about our maturity, therefore. So you take on responsibility with joy because you realize whether it be consequences or whatnot, you still have to deal with it instead of trying to shield from it. Some people, they run onto substance, they run onto alcohol and whatnot and stuff, and they think what they think. I don't know what it is. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to be sober. So what happens is that they feel like, okay, if I can just drown it, then you've still not solved it. You've only just made it worse because you've now introduced a new problem. You've now introduced another problem. And I can tell you where that started. You did not learn service. You did not learn service, and as a result, the flesh took over and thinking. And it applies to everybody, right? What kind of benchmarks are we setting? You know? Are you that kind of a person to set the standard very low for other people? How far I can set the standard very, very low for how far I'll serve. What's your service, sir? What's your service, ma'am? Once we know that, we know what we can handle. We know what we can't. What creates corruption is the kind of individuals that have not learned service but one position. At the end of the day, we stand before the Messiah, we stand before God. What happens is that we're going to answer for what that service was like. That's what our entire life is about, and we never talk about that. What was my service when I was amongst people? 1 Corinthians chapter number 3 gives an example of that. That's for a Christian, right? It brings back the question, what service did one provide, and of what sort was it? What was the intention behind it, and what moved you? That's your entire life. Like we are born at 5 years, we leave and we start going to school and we start learning to become something. 15, 20 years later, we go to university, we choose the paths. And once that path has been finally determined, we find jobs at which we get to serve humanity for, whether it be that I'm in the legal system, or I'm in the law enforcement, or I'm in the entertainment space. What is your service? Was your service serving lust? Was your service inciting greed? Was your service? What is your service? When you stand before God, that's what you answer for. In simple terms. And that's the conversation we never have. That's the conversation we never have. But we don't mind telling people what we want out of the world, but we've not learned how to serve at all. What creates an unstable world or an unstable system? It's service. If you can determine how far a person will serve, you can determine how much productive the person's service is and the quality of their work, because you know how far they are willing to go. Strict Reality showed daily Christian commentary videos. How much service have you put up, and how much service will you put up when we leave this conversation? It's Ricky, and I'll see you later.